I have never met a single designer who enjoys building their portfolio. If you've been procrastinating, don't blame yourself too much. Designing a product and designing a portfolio are two completely different skill sets. One is about solving user problems, and the other is about pitching yourself. So if you haven't learned the second skill set, of course you'll feel stuck and procrastinate, and the result is not getting the interviews you deserve. If you want some clarity on how to fix your portfolio fast, this video is for you. Hey, I'm Aliana. I run a Figma partner design bootcamp called Fast Track UX, where I help thousands of designers land a high-paying jobs in tech. This is the exact order I would follow to level up my own design portfolio, if I had very little time or energy. First, we need to think like a recruiter. A recruiter isn't really reading your portfolio, they are scanning. And there are 3 moments where they decide whether to keep going or drop off. The first moment is, do they even click your portfolio link? Second, based on your homepage, do they want to open any of your case studies? And third, based on your case study, do they want to contact you and give you a job interview? Each of these points is an opportunity to make your portfolio stand out. And if you have limited time and energy, start with the early points. Because if you lose the recruiter in the beginning, then they won't even see your case study. It won't matter. Now let's start with moment 1. This is whether a recruiter clicks your portfolio link or not. And this mostly depends on things they see before your portfolio link, and that is your resume, outreach message, referral, cover letter. And these are not really the focus of this video, but if you want to learn more, I put together a free resource and the link is in the description. What you can control is the portfolio link itself. If you have client experience or past work experience and your goal is getting a well-paid design job in tech, then don't send a link that looks like a Behance or Dribble portfolio, okay? Because the floor is low for those kind of links, and then the recruiter could associate it with a beginner portfolio. 2 portfolios, same content. The second one will get the click. So the first thing you can optimize is getting a custom domain and building your portfolio website on Framer. But if you're a complete beginner, then just don't stress too much about this custom domain thing. You can build your site on Framer and just use the free Framer domain. And if you haven't used Framer before, it is a web building tool designed for designers, and I've been suggesting all my students to use Framer for their portfolio for years. I'll be using Framer for the rest of this video. Link to Framer and a discount code is in the description. If you are already using Framer, just follow along. Once a recruiter clicks into your portfolio, your homepage is all they see. And they spend only 6 to 10 seconds deciding whether to click into your case study or just close the tab entirely. If your homepage doesn't signal that you are competent and relevant, none of the case studies would matter. And a low effort, high return way to level up your homepage is using borrowed trust. The recruiter doesn't know you yet, so you borrow trust from names, brands, schools, and industry terms they already recognize and relevant to you. This works because a recruiter doesn't read, they scan. And all they will notice and remember are the keywords they already recognize and trust. And you may ask, I don't have any of these fancy keywords, what do I do? Well, every single person has their unique unfair advantage. But because we're living in it, these things feel too normal to us, so we just assume that they don't count. And that is why you need a second brain to spot these keywords. And the second brain can be AI. I recommend trying at least one of these tools, and it's free. Claude, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Here's what I would do. Start a new conversation and tell your AI assistant that you want to improve your UX design portfolio homepage by adding some trusted keywords. You want to do this so the recruiters are more likely to click and then keep looking. Tell it about your target jobs and also share your context. Ask your AI to ask you follow-up questions, and then finally get to a list of trusted keywords you can use and suggestions on how to include them. But always remember, AI is your assistant, not your boss. You're the boss, so always evaluate all these AI suggestions and then write the final copy yourself. What you're seeing here is Framer design pages. On the left side, everything under design is a design page in Framer. And these are drafts you can freely explore and iterate on. These are not live yet. If you go down, everything under pages are development pages. I use Framer design pages because it lets you design freely, pretty much like Figma. But because it's in Framer, we can bring our design to development in just 2 clicks. Right-click on the frame and then select Create Web Page. This makes it super easy to bring design to development, so go try it out. And if you insist to design within Figma, that is totally fine too. You can use the Figma to Framer plugin later to bring your design to development, but you might need more adjustment. Now I'm just iterating on the side by adding these keywords. After a few minutes or hours, you can see a clear before and after. On the left is how the portfolio reads before the keywords upgrade, and on the right is after. Your keywords should look nothing like mine, by the way. Do the work yourself and make it yours so that you know how to talk about them in your interviews. There are more ways to improve this, so stick around till the end. For your homepage, the projects you choose and the order you show them matters. Remember this, the purpose of a portfolio is to persuade, not to document. And a super common mistake I see is just stuffing every project you did into one portfolio. And I made this mistake before. You might think more projects equal more experience, but in reality, you are mixing in low quality and irrelevant work, and this lowers your overall signal. You end up looking less experienced, less professional, and less relevant. So I recommend selecting 3 to 4 strong projects. The first project matters the most, and this is the project you're going to go on a deep dive during your interview. So choose your strongest, most recent client project with a real company. I wouldn't really put a personal project as the first case study if my goal is to get hired by another company, because you're applying to join a team, not really applying to be your own startup. And by the way, I learned this the hard way. When I was applying for my first big tech job, I had multiple client projects on hand, but I thought these projects were too sketchy because they didn't follow the perfect UX process. And guess what I did? I replaced all of my client projects by 3 new personal projects that I thought was perfect. And this single thing was the dumbest career mistake I made. It delayed my job search by 9 months. Don't do it. No real company follows a perfect UX process, so don't hide the messy reality. Show how you made good design decisions within the constraints, and that is what makes a project strong. And for the remaining few projects, I prioritize client projects for sure, and projects relevant to your dream job and target industry, and project with a strong impact, UX, and UI. This is what my portfolio looks like when it's stuffed with random projects, and after this cleanup, these are the case studies I decide to keep. Now there's a much better way to showcase these projects, so stay for the next chapter. In this step, we're going to polish the description of your case study so it's crystal clear. That includes what you did, for what industry, what impact you made, and which business metric supports it. And you might ask, shouldn't these be the things I include in the case study page instead of the homepage? Well, you want people to click into your case study, don't you? So it is so important to include these important things on your homepage so the recruiter clicks into your case study. And how do you do this? I think it's going to be very similar to the keyword step, but this time just more focused on each project. And again, this is a great place to leverage AI. Here's what I will tell my AI assistant. I'll say the goal is to write a stronger project summary for my product design portfolio homepage so recruiters are more likely to click into the case study. It needs to be easy to scan, easy to remember, and show real business impact with a very clear design format. Then I will just ramble through the context about what the company was like before I joined the team, what I did, and what was the product or the company like after I joined the team. And I will share every single measurable metrics I know. This is how the homepage looked before. Again, I'm still in Framer design pages. And this is how it looked after I iterate on the project descriptions. My AI helped me a lot with choosing what to include, but again, the final decision was on me, and the writing was on me with my personal tone, so it doesn't sound like a robot. By the way, this step may require you to use a completely different layout for how to showcase your project, so feel free to break things. And please don't use the same metrics for each project, because every case study has a different story, so you should customize what you highlight. Now it is your turn to polish up. We've done a lot of text work by now, but remember, we're designers, and our visual defines our first impression. So what is the most important visual element on your homepage? The answer is your project thumbnail. These thumbnails show your UI skills right away and how well you can package your work into something clean and aesthetic. Think about how you decide whether to click a YouTube video. You would definitely pay attention to the thumbnail. Now bring that logic back to your portfolio. Before you even touch any of your case studies, I will spend minimum a few hours just to make the thumbnail better. Let us start with some common mistakes to avoid. This first one is showing everything all at once. This is when you zoom out and then put 15 screens into one banner. You may feel like, this way I show that I can design every single screen in this product and show how much work I did. Well, the reality is that you just made this so hard for a recruiter to see, and then a recruiter would assume that you're a bit unprofessional. It reminds me of a childhood trauma of mine when my house was invaded by a colony of ants. Let's make sure we use a more clever way to showcase our design so the recruiter can see the UI right away. No ant colony. Mistake number 2 is using a login screen, sign up screen, or a loading screen as your main thumbnail. Oh my god, guys, these are the weakest thing you can ever showcase because how different can these be from each other? Please don't do that. Instead, showcase your homepage or the screens that are relevant to the key workflow of your project. I mean, you can showcase the sign-in login screen only if you did like a sign-up flow redesign. This third mistake is a little controversial, and that is using extremely fancy marketing style mockups, like this one. A lot of mockups can be great for your project if they add clear depth or context without reducing readability. But if you take it to the extreme and use a mockup that makes your UI really difficult to see, I would suggest choosing something simpler. But sure, it does look pretty fancy. Now let's open Framer, and I'm going to take you through how to do the thumbnail redesigns by giving you 3 examples. I choose to directly design in Framer because this way I can add motion and interaction to the thumbnail. It is magical and you will see. The first project I want to showcase is primarily on desktop and it has a simple user flow. So I decide to use a short looping video to showcase it. Here is how. First, press F to create a frame. This will be the frame for my project thumbnail. I will set a fill color to this frame. Then, bring in the company logo because it is a well-recognized name. Next, insert a video by clicking Insert on top left, then Media, then Video. Drag the video into the frame. On the right side panel, scroll down to the video section and click Upload. I'll choose my screen recording file. Guys, it is really important to record the video without your voice, okay? And keep it very simple and easy to follow. Avoid shaky cursor movements and keep it around 5 seconds long. You can also edit your video to make it more crisp before uploading it to Framer. After uploading the video, let us also upload a poster image here. I will just use the first frame of my video. It helps with faster loading for the website. And in the loop section, make sure to select yes so the video keeps looping. Now when I preview my site, this thumbnail looks something like this. Let's compare it with what it looks like before. I think this is a glow up. The second project I want to showcase is a responsive web landing page design. And the landing page is a bit long. So this time, I will use a hover effect to showcase more of my design. And here's how I do it. First, again, press F to create a frame and fill it with a color. Then I'll add the logo. Next, I'll create 2 more frames inside the thumbnail frame, both with rounded corners. One represents desktop and the other represents mobile. I'll bring the desktop design into the desktop frame and then the mobile design to the mobile frame. These are, by the way, very long pictures. I'll make sure to use the left side layers panel to make sure these designs are in the right frame. For the desktop and mobile frames, let us set their overflow to clip. This makes sure the design are clipped within the rounded corner frames. Now this shows how the thumbnail looks by default. But I want to add a hover effect. A hover effect adjusts the visual element when someone moves their mouse over it. I want to use this effect because the design is pretty long, and this way, the recruiter can see more of the design without even clicking into the project. If you're using Framer design pages and want to add interaction, you first need to create a component. Right-click the entire thumbnail frame and select Create Component. Next, select the design layer. On the right panel, scroll to Effects and add a hover effect. Here, I don't want it to scale, so I will set the scale back to 1. Then I will change the Y offset to something like -500, so the screen appears to be scrolling downward. Under Transition, I will click it and set the duration to around 7 seconds to make the hover effect slow and smooth. Then I'll repeat the same setup for the mobile screen. Once this is done, this is how the thumbnail looks. And this is how it looks when I hover over the element. I like it. I think it's cleaner and stronger than how it looks before. The third project I want to showcase is an app I designed from 0 to 1. And instead of showing a boring sign in, sign up, or loading screen, I'll first make sure to showcase my homepage and 2 other very important pages. I'll go into Figma community and use a very standard iPhone mockup to make the product feel more realistic. In Framer, create a new frame by pressing F. Set a fill color, add the project logo, and then bring in the 3 screens. I want to arrange them like this. For this thumbnail, I just want a simple appear effect. So when the recruiter scrolls to the section, the top 2 screens will slide down from the top and the middle screen will slide up from the bottom. And here's how I do it. Because I'm using Framer design pages, I first need to create a component to build these interactions. So I will select the entire thumbnail, right-click, and choose Create Component. Then I will select the top 2 screens. On the right side panel, go to Effects and then Add an Effect. Choose Appear. Then change the trigger to Layer in View because I want this effect to happen not when I load the entire website, but when I scroll to this thumbnail. And I'll set replay to no because I want it to happen just once. For this preset, I will choose slide in top, then click into the enter effect, go to transition, and change the duration to something longer like 1.5 seconds. And after that, I'll go back and delete the exit effect because I only need the enter animation. Then I'll repeat the same setup for the middle screen, except this time choose slide in bottom. Now when I preview my page, this is how the third thumbnail looks. I think it's so much stronger than before. Now there are a million ways to design these thumbnails, and the key is to highlight the strength of your project. You can also steal like an artist in reference to how other designers are designing it. Now it is your turn to use your creativity and make your thumbnails truly yours. This next chapter is about one small change that can make your portfolio way stronger, and that is adding a really easy to see and easy to use call to action. What I like to do is keep a fixed button at the top of my portfolio, and when someone clicks it, it copies my email. Here's how I build it. First, I design the default button style in Framer. Then I right-click and select Create Component, so I can add variants and interactions. Next, I'll click the box below the primary button and create a hover variant. After this, I'll click the box to the right of the primary button and create another variant. And I'll name it Pressed. And this is the success state. Now when it comes to interaction, the hover interaction is already handled because I specifically choose a hover variant. But for the success interaction, I'll set it up by first selecting the primary variant, then dragging the lightning icon to the success variant, and setting the trigger to click. After this, I'll add one more interaction from the success variant back to the primary variant, set it to mouse leave, and add a 2-second delay. Now if we preview this button, once I hover over it, it changes state. And if I click it, it shows the success state. And if I move my mouse away and wait 2 seconds, it resets back to the primary state. Perfect. Now the visual part is done. Next is the fun part of making it actually work. Trust me, it is not that hard. Just follow along. There is no need to exit this component editor. Just go to the top left, search for Copy to Clipboard, and drop it onto this canvas. This is a pre-built Framer component that copies text for you. Voila. We're not using it as the visible button though, because it doesn't give you a lot of design control. So we're basically using it as an invisible copy engine. Select the clipboard component, and on the right panel, under Clipboard, paste your email into the content field. At this point, it already functions. Now we just need to hide it in our design button. Select the keyboard component and set its fill and stroke opacity all to 0%, so it becomes fully transparent. Inside your layers view, drag this clipboard layer into your primary variant. Then change its width and height to fixed, and set all 4 offsets to 0, so it perfectly hugs the entire button. If you scroll down a little bit, the z-index should be more than 0, so it floats on top of everything else. Now when you preview the component, the button looks exactly the way you designed it, and clicking it copies your email. I love it! Now it is your turn to design yours. We've talked a lot about how to improve the homepage of a portfolio, but what about the actual case studies? Well, this is what this chapter is for. One quick way to improve your case study immediately is showcasing a clear before and after comparison at the top. And this is what you want to avoid. I see a lot of people, they put their final solution all the way at the end of their case study, and I have to scroll through this entire essay just to see their UI. Don't do this. Put a clear before and after comparison at the top, and put a clear summary of what the problem is, what your solution is, and what is your impact. This makes your case study instantly easier to understand and stronger. And if the recruiter thinks that this project is strong enough, then they just need to take a few more seconds to scroll through and then see how you make your design decisions, then give you an interview. You don't have to include everything in your case study, and I would suggest against that because you can always talk about the details in your interview. Now this next thing is even easier to do, and this is just flipping the hierarchy of your chapter title versus the actual highlighted content. So this is what I used to do. I'm guilty of this because I also thought about this, which is highlighting terms like problem, solution, impact. If you really think about it, it says nothing. It only says problem, but it doesn't say what the problem is. The actual problem statement that has content in it is in a much smaller font buried under this big chapter title. So instead of bolding and making those chapter tags bigger, let's make the actual highlighted content bigger and make these chapter tags smaller and in a gray color. right away, you'll nudge the recruiter to actually read what the problem is, because now you're highlighting things that actually matters. There are so many more tips I can share when it comes to building a strong portfolio so that you can get your dream job faster. If you want a full, updated, dedicated tutorial on this, comment portfolio and I will consider making one for you. I want to thank Framer for trusting me and making this video possible for you to watch for free. The link to Framer is in the description. If you haven't tried it out, definitely go try it out. My name is Aliana and I make content about design, tech, and business. I also run a Figma trusted design bootcamp called Fast Track UX, where I help people like you land a well-paid design job in tech. If you like this video, you'll also like this video, so I will see you there, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications. Thank you so much for watching. It needs to be easy to scan, easy to remember, and show real business impact with a very clear design format. And I will share every single measurable metrics I know. Blah, 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 blah. This is so fast, sorry.